Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
And will you show the video? Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I will. And I can edit it. I don't prefer to, but I can. So that's fine.
Can you make me look like Chris Hemsworth?
No.
No. Okay. You can't
No, I
edit
mean,
that well.
probably someone could make you look like Chris Hemsworth, but that's beyond my time and technical ability.
Yeah, I get it. It defies even AI's capabilities.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
AI could do it.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
no, we can start now. Welcome,
Okay.
Douglas.
Oh, and nice to be here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming to our show, Douglas E. Richards, techno thriller author, near future sci-fi author. You have tons of books, USA Today and New York Times bestselling author. So super excited to have you here. I think your most recent release is The Breakthrough Effect. Do you want to start with talking about that one?
Yeah, sure. Now that one, I've done a couple with co-authors, but that's the one I've most recently done on my own. And that one is actually more relevant than ever in a lot of ways. The I can't give away too many spoilers, but the idea is, what if you could think at the speed of a computer? I mean, which is basically the speed of light. So the speed light travels at 186,000 miles a second, which is pretty fast for a second. You can go around the entire globe 7 times in a second. That's how fast it is. And computers are getting, pretty close to that speed. I mean, if you have optical computers, which I have in the novel, you get very, very high percentage of that speed. And that's just breathtaking speed. And we all see it. I mean, we've seen it in the Google generation. You Google something and a second later it comes back and says, we looked at 7,000 results or 200,000 results. Now with AI, it's just crazy how fast it is and how well it can formulate an answer and it can just boom, it just goes down the page. And so it turns out that if you do the math, it's not entirely clear how fast the brain works, but it's about 500 miles an hour, 5 to 700
Okay.
miles an hour. Now, it doesn't need to be much faster because our brain is very dense and it's all kind of crammed in there. So it doesn't have much distance for neurons to fire. So if 500 miles per hour when you're a millimeter away is pretty fast. But what if it could be the speed of light? And the speed of light is actually 1,000,000 times. If you do the math, it's almost exactly 1,000,000 times faster than the speed of thought. So I worked out, I wish I should have prepared for this, but I think it's like 11 days. Like 1 minute is like 11 days. So, so I have this guy who's like a billionaire, and he ends up like capturing the minds of the greatest scientists on Earth and putting them in kind of a virtual world where they can think at the speed of light. But he has to, govern them pretty carefully because at that speed, like 1,000 years goes by in like a day. And so with that kind of brilliance, you put all the Einsteins in the world inside that thing working on problems. Now the trick is, can they get out of the computer? Can they get out of the virtual world? And the novel is about some woman who manages to get out, cleverly get out of the virtual world. And there's a lot going on there, and I really, really love this one in the days of AI because I think it's super topical. I mean, I wrote a book called Infinity Born. I think it was like 2018 maybe. And it's funny because I thought I was, writing about artificial superintelligence. I thought, oh, this is like 50 years away. No, it might be like 2 years away. I mean, it's hard to stay ahead of technology. That's about kind of if you can have runaway evolution of computers and, like evolution, human evolution, biological evolution, what do we have? Generation every 20, 30 years, right? Computer, if it could find a way to self-evolve, it could have a generation every microsecond. And so you could have billions of generations. I mean, just like the first program that ever, like, that was the strongest chess program in history. DeepMind from Google did that. Well, before Google bought them, but they trained this computer. It was like a self-learning computer. They had it play chess against itself for 4 hours. And in 4 hours, it played billions of games against itself. And then it came out with these alien strategies that nobody had ever thought of. And it just crushed the greatest chess playing computer. And it makes human grandmasters look like children. It's that strong after 4 hours. So all of this stuff is, like, so I think Infinity Board talks a lot about artificial intelligence, artificial superintelligence, and I think that's super topical right now. Um, and that was doing really well in Germany as well. Super successful there. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of a long-winded way of telling you about my most recent.
Right. So in the breakthrough effect, are all your characters AI characters then,
No,
or
no, no, no,
are
no.
they real characters?
No, they're all humans. There's humans outside of the AI world, and his wife disappears, or and he has no idea what happened to her. And it turns out that this guy, in order to capture their minds, this was before there was this show on Netflix that was like this, where you had to actually kill the person. You had to kind of like laser dissect the brain instantly to capture the mind. So he's killing these folks and trapping them in the computer. But there's very much a real world. I would never have it all in a virtual world. No, because that's kind of like, what's the point? But so they're trapped and they're enslaved really. But he doesn't let them go full speed because he's smarter than he knows. He lets them go, like a minute at a time, so so he can make sure they don't have runaway and get the better of them. And anyway, she has this plot where her husband is a special forces guy, and he's got this new kind of uh, brain implant technology that is also being worked on, like Neuralink. Elon Musk Neuralink. You can actually control stuff. They have implants now where people they can write telepathically. So, I mean, I can dictate in my mind and it comes out really fast and accurately. This is really coming along fast too. So he's got a computer implant and she managed to download herself into his implant. So his ex-wife or his wife is in his head, literally. And then everybody's trying to kill him. I mean, it's the standard thriller tropes where everybody's they're on the run, they don't know what's going on, everybody's trying to kill him, and et cetera, et cetera. And then there's this all-powerful guy who's now a trillionaire who controls it all, that has infinite resources to go after them. So it's that sort of thing.
Okay, so I'm kind of interested. Are all these smart people that he's killing and dissecting their brains to download them into the computer, do they do this willingly, or are these people being kidnapped?
Oh, right,
And
kidnapped,
wouldn't,
yeah.
okay, so,
Oh,
and
yeah,
people
yeah.
would notice that. It seems like people would notice that trend.
Right. Oh, no. So, that's a good point you raised. So, what he does is he says he's got a think tank, but it's kind of like it's notorious for being like a cult. Like there are a lot of cults where once you join them, they don't let you have outside contact. And so the whole idea is, you have this think tank, but boy, you're isolated, and sign up here. And then so he's famous and really well respected. And so everybody thinks that these people just decided on their own to go to these think tanks and cut off, and they're working for him, but they don't realize that he killed them, and they are working for them, but kind of digitally.
Okay, so they're sentient. They are thinking inside the computer. They don't realize they're dead,
No, they do
right?
know. They
Uh,
absolutely know they're dead. Oh yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's why they want to escape and they want to kind of turn the tables
Ah,
on him.
got it, got
And
it, got it.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, I can't even believe I remember this because I mean, after so many books, like the guy I was talking to, so for Split Second, which we can maybe talk about a little bit later. God, I had this guy, can't remember his name. He was a movie producer. He worked with the guy who did the Transformers, Michael Bay or something, and what is it, Jonathan Liebesman, who did a couple. He did the Mutant Teenage Ninja Turtle movie, which is
Very
whatever.
popular movie, very
Very
popular.
yeah. So he contacted me. He read Split Second. He loved it. He wanted to make a movie out of it. Unfortunately, the rights were already with somebody else, which is kind of a bummer. But then he's asking me all these questions, and it had been like 5 years since I had written the thing. And he's like, now, what you're getting at here, how does this work? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't remember. So I was like, well, how do you think it works? And he's like, I think it works this way. I'm going, that sounds good. I'm totally like, I can't let him know that I don't remember my own novel.
Right.
So I'm actually doing pretty well with the breakthrough effect. I'm kind of proud of myself.
That happens when you write so many books and then when it's been a while. So, and
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
know if you're like me, like I'm always thinking about what I'm writing next. I'm not most of the time not thinking about what I wrote before, unless it's a series and I need to, build on what I've done. Um, so yeah, characters, just play in my head most of the
Yeah, oh
time.
yeah. No, that's how I was. I mean, when I was deep in the woods, I mean, you'd be out to dinner and I mean, I have to always make notes. I have a pad by the side of the bed when I'm writing because, for me, if I like have these brilliant eureka ideas, and if I ever fall back asleep, they're gone the next
Yep,
morning.
that's
So,
hard. So Split Second is coming out as a special edition in bookstores in April. And so tell us a little bit about the plot of that one.
well, that one was, this is a special edition, but it was my most successful novel. It was like for 2017 on Kindle. And I'm dating it, but it's science fiction, so it's still kind of relevant. But 2017, it was the number 27th best-selling Kindle novel of the year.
Oh,
It
wow.
was like in the top 20 for 5 months or something on Kindle, and it was actually one behind Dan Brown. If you go look up 2017 bestsellers of the year, his book was like 26th, mine was 27th. So, it was great. It was what a year that was. But anyway, I set out for that one to write a time travel novel that was completely unique. I kind of challenged myself. There's so many thousands of time travel novels that have been written, movies, TV series, romantic time travel, and post-apocalyptic time travel, and every time travel under the sun has been done to death. And people, and I thought, could I come up with a different angle that's never been done? So I immersed myself. I mean, I read hundreds of time travel stories, and I studied huge volumes of the science of time travel because my claim to fame is I use accurate science. So I give readers a lot of food for thought. So not only is it like fast paced with lots of twists and turns and reveals and surprises, but it's all very possible. The science is very accurate and well researched and stuff like that. So, so I figured I researched the heck out of time travel, and I did come up with a novel. As far as I can tell, it was about the most novel thing that's been written in time travel for 100 years. And I think that's why it was so successful. So the whole premise, and I won't give any spoilers away, but the idea was, what if you could go back in time 45 millionths of a second? So I've got this physicist who discovers a way to travel back in time 45 millionths of a second. So a split second, less than a blink of an eye. Okay, and he's excuse me, should have brought some water. Anyway, he so then he's killed pretty fast, and his fiance is on the run. Everybody's trying to kill her, and she finds out that it's because he made this breakthrough that he was about to tell her about. But it's like the speed of light in Albert Einstein's equations. Like you can't go faster than light. There's no way to go back more than 45 millionths of a second. So the question is, why does anybody care? I mean, so what? You can go back in time 45 millionths of a second. How does that help you? In time travel tropes, you go back and you change, you right a wrong, you change an event, you buy a lottery ticket, right? But in 45 millionths of a second, how do you gain? And that's the big question. And she's like saying, I don't get it. That's great that you prove theoretically you could do it, but I'm not getting rich on a lottery ticket, and I'm not like, not breaking up with my boyfriend because that was a big mistake. I'm not changing anything in the past. So, but it turns out that it's incredibly useful, and I won't tell you why because that's kind of the twist of the novel. But it's extraordinarily like game-changing, useful that could change the world forever. And so she's on the run, and she hooks up with this private detective who's really, really good, ex-special forces. Most of my guys are ex-special forces. I mean, when you write thrillers, that's pretty common. Um, and everybody's trying to kill him, and different factions, and she doesn't know why they're interested in this, and who the good guys and who the bad guys are, and there's all kinds of twists, and that one, like I said, was my most successful of all. So that's the one that's coming out. It's being reissued in a really nice, glossy, you know, beautiful hardcover that'll be in Barnes and Noble all over.
Nice.
Not just wait, I shouldn't say
Yeah.
that because I'll get yelled at. Not just Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, every major bookstore. So
Fun.
sorry. Let's edit
Uh,
that one out.
your favorite bookstore near you, right?
Thank you. Exactly.
Um, yeah, so I'm trying to figure out like if you go back a 45th of a millionth of a second, could you from that 45th of a millionth of a second go back another 45th millionth? And if you continue to do that, you could do it enough that you could go back an appreciable amount to affect something. That's my theory. Don't tell me if I'm right.
No, you're not right, but it's a good theory. It's smart. It's very smart, but that's not it.
That's the best I've got. So
You're gonna have to read it now.
I'm gonna have to read it.
All
So
right.
would you characterize your books as like hard sci-fi, or are they more
Yes.
like you said they're thrillers, but they have technical passages more like Andy Weir's
Oh
sci-fi.
yeah. Very, very hard science
Okay.
fiction. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I'm often compared to him, Michael Crichton, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the kind I write. Yeah. I mean, so I have a master's in molecular biology.
Okay.
I have an MBA, I have a master's. I was getting a PhD program for molecular biology, but I was super sloppy, and I was dealing with radiation and carcinogens, and I wanted to have children someday, and I felt like, boy, I'm not doing myself any favors if I want to have healthy kids here with all this carcinogen and radiation. So I left it and wrote the master's instead, and then I went into biotech. I was a biotech executive. So, for me, kind of accurate science. I always loved Asimov and Crichton and those kind of people like Andy Weir, although I came
Well, it's
before
so
him.
interesting that you've gone writing like about computers rather than writing about biological evolution or, dinosaurs coming alive again or something like that.
I've written about everything, because so I started out, my first book was about called Wired. That was the one that, started my career. That's the one that, was 5 weeks on the New York Times and USA Today bestseller list. And it was really, I quit biotech after that. And that one was more involved with my biotech background.
Okay.
So, but then after that, I found that I say this a lot, but I put every good idea I ever had in my life into every novel. And then I'm done. I'm like, okay, now what? I don't have any more good ideas. I mean, if it was a good idea, I put it in. So now my job for the last, and how long has it been? 2010, 16 years. So my job for the last 16 years as a full-time writer has been every time I finish a book, I reload. I have to I study cosmology, human behavior, the science of happiness, psychology, immunology. I mean, every single thing under the sun, I kind of have to get up to speed on so that I can have ideas for the next novel. And so, at some point you got to branch beyond, just kind of biotech, which is what I knew. So I started going all kinds of different directions. But I'm really proud of the body of work I did. I'm kind of getting older and lazier, and now I'm doing these kind of co-author things. But I still think, and they're doing really well in Germany. My books haven't taken off much in Brazil or Spain. I was number one for a while, but boy, those markets are so tiny, and they don't really last very long. So anyway, so I'm not retired. I'm still working hard, but um, it's been quite a fun ride because I've grown so much, learned so much. And I mean, how great is it that I got paid to learn stuff? So I'm just super lucky.
Yeah, as a scientist, I respect that. I also have a master's degree, but in microbiology, so
That's
adjacent
very similar.
field. Yeah.
Very, very
Um,
similar.
so for
Hey,
listeners, you've talked about Wired, which was your first novel, I think, correct?
yeah.
And then Split Second sounds like a good place to start. It sounds like you have, or I saw on your website, you have a couple of different series. Maybe just tell us about, those different series, and you have some young adult books too. So kind of just break down your whole portfolio a little bit.
Okay, so I have the Mind's Eye series. Well, Nick Hall. Nick Hall is the hero, and Mind's Eye. That's a really fun one, and they're still trying like hell to make a movie or a TV series out of it. But a guy wakes up in a dumpster, covered in blood, and he doesn't have any memory. It's one of those amnesia things. He has no memory of who he is, so he stumbles out, and everyone's trying to kill him, which is not fun when you don't know who you are and you wake up in a dumpster. And but then he soon realizes that he can read minds perfectly, and he can surf the web with his thoughts. Now that's actually I wrote this long before there was a Neuralink that's doing it in real life, but it's hard to keep ahead of real science nowadays. But there, but he finds out that, and obviously he doesn't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. I mean, he doesn't know who he is. And so he's like trying to stay alive because everybody's trying to kill him. And it's pretty clear that if you can read minds perfectly, I mean, like if I tell you to think of a 10-digit number, I can just boom, that's what you're thinking of, and I'll be right. So, I mentioned in the book, people claim that they can read minds. You don't need like punch cards, like flashcards experiments to prove that somebody has ESP. If you really have it, you can prove it in 5 seconds. You know, you think of a sentence and I'll tell you the exact sentence you're thinking of, and for 100% that I can read your mind. So if you can read minds perfectly, then power players all over the globe would want you dead because you could just steal all their secrets instantly. I mean, you could steal their bank account information. You could learn where all the bodies are buried. I mean, God, if somebody goes to Washington, D.C. and can read minds, oh my God, they probably have to kill themselves because of all the corruption that they'd be reading in there. Um, so, so that's kind of the premise of it. And it really hits the ground running. I mean, boom, he's off to the races. Everybody's trying to kill him. He's got to figure out why. And then he does get his memory back, by the way. It's not one of these where he never knows. He does get it back. And he has I typically, I'll be honest, usually I have uh, a hero, and sometimes a woman is the hero, is like the badass, but usually like either a badass man or woman, and they end up running away with a badass of the opposite sex, and they end up having a relationship, or not falling in love kind of at the end of the novel, which is pretty standard thriller stuff as well. And but I have to say that every one of my characters tends to be brilliant. I I I don't like dumb characters. And so, the villain is brilliant every time. It's not they don't win because the villain does something stupid. They win despite the fact that the villain is brilliant, and they outsmart the villain, so they're even more brilliant. And I mean, yeah, they're world-class scientists, a lot of the characters. So they're even more brilliant, and they outsmart them. And so they don't just always outmuscle them. In fact, the thing I love the most is finding ways that they outwit them. So that's the Mind's Eye series, and I've got a real-time travel series called the Alien Artifact. It's the Enigma Cube and a Pivot in Time. And so these are kind of interesting. And stop me if I'm
No, that's what I love hearing about everyone's books.
So I mean, this actually the first one, the Enigma Cube, gives insight into kind of how I plot books because I never know what the hell I'm doing until I'm like more than halfway through. So for this one, I had a big idea. I said, okay, what if you could control gravity? Like, I mean, absolutely control it. Turn it off, turn it 1,000-fold. So, if you could up the gravity, you could crush a tank like a tin can, right? You could have the gravity on the tank be super heavy, or you could have a whole army float up into the air because you make gravity zero. So if you could control gravity, what are the things that, so what if somebody could control gravity? And that actually brings me back to my kids series. Well, I'm really rambling now. The kids series is called the Prometheus Project. It's a mouthful for kids. I don't know why I did that, but there's 3 of them, and the idea is they find this their parents are involved in this abandoned alien city deep underground that is like there's no one there. It's just an empty city, and there's all this tech in it, and they stumble upon different things, and the kids become part of the group, to study the technology, and they go on all these adventures in this kind of alien city. And in one scene that I had that wasn't really that instrumental to the novel, they had this thing called the Enigma Cube. And that's what I named the novel, which after the kids' book thing. And it was just like this little cube, like a Rubik's Cube. Okay. And they found it, but it was immovable. I mean, it weighed infinity. I mean, you could take the biggest bulldozer, the biggest crane, you couldn't move it a millimeter. Okay. So how can this thing weigh that much? Because it turns out because it controlled gravity, and all they had to do was like a touch screen, adjust it. So, but I mean, what was really fun was they had this thing that couldn't be moved, and then they walk in the next day and it's gone. Like somebody stole it. How can you steal an immovable object? So I thought that was kind of an interesting hook. So I said, well, I want to use that in an adult novel. I want to use this hook. So if you can control gravity, and that's how it starts. Like, this team of scientists, they find this thing that can't be moved, no matter what they do. And they're studying it, and they walk in, it's gone. Like, what? How did that happen?
But the aliens are back, right?
yeah. So I'm trying to research this thing, and it's amazing all the things you can do with gravity. So like dark matter or dark energy rather. It's like most of the universe is made up of dark energy that we can't really detect, but it turns out that it's really kind of a repulsive force. So I mean, the idea is that galaxies are moving away, right? The Big Bang, they're moving away, but they're not moving away nearly as fast as they should. And there's all kinds of calculations which make scientists think, oh wait, no, let me try that again. Switch that. They're moving away too fast.
Okay.
And so there's some kind of repulsive force that's also operating. And the farther they get apart, the more the repulsive force. So like empty space has this repulsive, so basically it's anti-gravity. And if you could have anti-gravity, there's all kinds of papers out now put up by the government who study UFOs, and they won't admit it, but these papers are, I cited in a novel that I wrote. I mean, the Navy has taken out patents on this stuff, but the idea is that if you could have anti-gravity, you could do faster than light travel. And you could also do wormholes, stable wormholes that would allow you to travel great distances. Because the idea is you can't travel faster than light, but the universe itself is expanding faster than light. So you can't move faster than light, but it's like, so you're on the outer edge of a balloon and you can't move, between 2 points faster than a certain amount. But if the balloon's blowing up and you're connected, then I'm not explaining this well at all.
No, I am trying. I am like, no, you're explaining it well. My mind is like, okay, I'm just taking it in, and my mind is trying to make that jump. I will tell you that.
All right. So the idea is it's like a wave on the ocean. Your surfboard could be going no speed, but you're moving really fast because you're riding
right, because the wave is pulling you. So that's what's happening with the universe expanding. Right. It makes you go faster almost,
if
right?
You can anchor yourself using anti-gravity. So there's all kinds of things that anti-gravity can do. So it actually gives you absolute control of space-time, because what is gravity but an indentation in space-time? I mean, gravity, Einstein showed that, space-time, think of it as a trampoline. When a weight goes in it, it kind of indents it, and then things go around it like a marble rolling around. So, so anyway, I'm getting way too deep in the weeds, but it's control of space-time. So I'm reading this, and it would allow time travel. So I thought, wow, I just thought they were crushing tanks like tin cans, and it was like cool to be able to remove this immovable object. And now we're talking about controlling space-time. So what else can you do? So anyway, time travel. And then I'm reading that like the Nazis in World War II were studying the hell out of anti-gravity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I thought, wow. So you know what? I'm going to try to connect the two time periods and make a time travel novel where they actually have to go back to that. There's like some reason that Nazi Germany knew about this anti-gravity stuff. And it's a long story, but I had no idea that I was going to write a time travel novel. I mean, when I first started, it was about controlling gravity. I didn't even know gravity and because it impacted space-time, could create time travel possibility. And I didn't know that Nazi Germany was huge in the occult and all of this, like Raiders of the Lost Ark. They really were into all that stuff.
Interesting.
Um, and all this archaeological stuff. So they stumbled upon this alien artifact that's in the novel in the 1930s. And they were studying it, and so there was kind of a bridge between then and now. And anyway, and Adolf Hitler becomes a character, which is really a gutsy move. I really, it was a gutsy move to have. But here's the thing: the funny thing is, I finally published it. I finally got the nerve to publish it in German. Because I felt like I published every other book except that one. Because I said, you know what? I could have gotten so many things wrong. Because, I mean, these people are German. I'm writing about half a book that takes place in Germany. And I'm like this stupid American who knows nothing about Germany. And it turns out that it's like a huge hit in German. Huge hit. And so then I thought, well, okay, now for a sequel, how could I top having Adolf Hitler in a novel? And you guessed it, the sequel has Jesus Christ
Oh, you really went there.
as a character. And I walked the line. I thought, how can I write a novel with Jesus Christ as a character that both agnostic, atheists, and Christians would all enjoy? And I pulled it off. I mean, I honestly got notes from all three sectors, emails saying, oh my God, I love this. So, and just to give you I don't know why I'm really babbling, but my thought was, okay, if you could be an atheist or you can be a priest, but we could all agree that Jesus Christ was very influential, very consequential. I mean, if you have like a sandwich named after you at the local deli, then you're, a little bit famous. But if you have like the dates of our years, the numbering of our years based on when you were born, you're pretty influential. And so it's a pivot in time. So, this is like what happens with Jesus Christ can really change the course of history clearly. So you might believe he was just a man or he didn't even exist. I mean, whatever you believe about him, everybody can agree that, and whatever you believe about the church, whether it did good or bad, everybody can agree that Jesus's teachings were good. I mean, he wanted people to love each other. Now, maybe it was bastardized later on, and maybe wars were started in the name of religion. Maybe bad things happened. So we could disagree on, the impact of his words and how they were maybe bastardized. But, odds are, if this was true, whether he was a man or a god, he was pretty well-meaning. So I use those as major premises that odds are he himself was a pretty good guy. And number two, he was super influential in world affairs. And so I based on that, and I can't believe that I pulled that one off. That was a Houdini act. That I didn't get hate mail from everybody.
Well, obviously you did a good job. So tell me the names again, the titles of the Hitler book and the Jesus Christ book. What are the
Yeah,
titles
so
of those?
the series name is Alien Artifact. And the
Okay.
idea is they find this cube, the Enigma cube. And so the first one's called the Enigma cube. Okay, and the second one is called A Pivot in Time.
Pivot in time. Okay.
Yeah. So I was really proud of that one, but it's funny. I mean, I had never written kind of anything historical. Like I like the future. I don't really study history at all. And it was maddening. It was the hardest writing I've ever had to do because I know nothing about history. Like in the Nazi one, like, did they have zippers back? He unzipped his, I don't know. Did they have zippers? Did they have like telephones? How did telephones work? And then when I went back to Rome, holy hell. I mean, like, I have a sentence like, uh, Jim looked out his kitchen window. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute.
You don't have
Did,
windows.
did they have windows back then? Did they have kitchens? I mean, so a sentence like Bill looked out the kitchen window, it could take me an hour and a half to research. I mean, it was maddening. Now that I have AI, that would have been so great. I wrote it before AI because then they would do all the research for me. I would just say, hey, do they have windows? And they would just boom. But I had
Yeah, but
really,
you have to check AI too. So,
yeah. Oh my God, every single thing I wrote, I had to check because I had no idea how they did things back then. Like, I mean, they even found out weird stuff. Like they used like a sponge instead of toilet paper. They used some kind of sponge, which doesn't seem hygienic, but whatever. I mean, I didn't
let's
live
just
back
say
then.
you watched it every time, right?
I'm not sure that was true, but I don't know. I don't know. That's too much information.
You're right. That's before they knew about bacteria and
Yeah,
disease,
exactly.
the cause of diseases, right?
So you have a master's in microbiology?
I do, yes, and
That
I
is so
worked for
cool.
DuPont at one time, so that was my
Wow.
my
What
biotech industry experience there. So,
where did you do your grad work?
I did an environmental microbiology, so it was like cleaning up or processing aromatic compounds by bacteria, which is what I was doing the opposite at DuPont. We were trying to make a lot of the chemicals via biological routes. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
And what university?
University of Georgia.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
So, yeah, I'm geeking out with you because I love learning about science and anything science related. So, anything you tell me, I'm like just a sponge, just taking it in and like, oh, very cool facts.
I think you're actually, you may not be a science fiction fan, but you're like my absolute dead center fan. I mean, people who have interest in this stuff and who like thrillers. I mean, you know, my writing is, I mean, I'm not, I write well enough that my whole goal is to stay out of my own way. I mean, I try to be invisible. So I don't try to be fancy. I just try to be invisible. I want the readers to be immersed in the story, not like, show off how good my vocabulary is. I mean, I think I do have a good vocabulary, and it comes through because I'm writing brilliant characters. But for the most part, I just want it to be kind of as seamless as possible. So, um, but the ideas. I mean, what I really pride myself is I have mind-blowing ideas that people are thinking about a long time after they finish reading. A lot of reveals and twists that you don't see coming, and a lot of philosophy and morality and ethics and stuff like that to come out. Um,
Yeah, I think if you could combine all of those, I mean, I do like sci-fi, and I think but I like it to mean something too. So I think if you can combine all of those, like, and especially in a fast-paced, fun way, then, it entertains people, and then it educates them a little bit, and they may say, oh, I need to look this up, and then it also like makes them think a little bit. So I think to me, that's the perfect kind of book. It's the perfect formula. And obviously, it sounds like you have it down.
well, I even my kids' books were that was all about accurate science. I mean, they've been promoted by every educator in the world. I mean, even in Britain, they were in their I can't remember their publication for teachers. I mean, they were endorsed by librarians, teachers. I wrote for National Geographic Kids magazine
Oh, fun.
for a little bit. After I did the kids' books, they had me writing little articles for them about science, and so I've always been into the sciencey stuff. And I used to give like uh, talks to like 500 fourth, fifth, sixth graders and assemblies. And they used to be fascinated with this stuff. And I even wrote articles like, why aren't we teaching our kids about relativity and quantum mechanics when they're like 10 years old? Why not? I mean, it's so cool. Like when I first learned that when you approach the speed of light, your mass increases to infinity, your length decreases to zero, and your time stops. That all comes out of Einstein's equation. I'm like, no way, this is cooler than Harry Potter stuff. I mean, like if I go at 99% of the speed of light and I travel for, God, how does this work? Um, I could be gone like a day and come back and thousands of years have passed on Earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, and even the idea that, like the 7 times around the world in 1 second, that comes from when I used to give talks to the kids. I'd say, that's how fast light travels. And I even translate it into how many trillions of miles per hour, because that sounds pretty cool too.
Yeah.
And yet, our nearest star is it take 4 years to get there, traveling at the speed of light. I mean, a jet would take, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years. to get to the nearest star, and that's our nearest star. You know, to give them an idea of the immensity of the galaxy and cosmos. And it really is. I mean, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I've learned so much, and I really have an appreciation for just how infinitesimal we are. I mean, the sun, you know, we have the sun that we look at every day, and, you know, it's been burning for billions of years, on fire for billions of years. It's big enough to fit 1,000,000 Earths inside of it. I mean, what the heck is that? How could you
Yeah.
possibly wrap your mind around even that? And that's one star, and there's hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy, and there's now thought to be about 1 trillion universes. I mean,
That's
galaxies, brother.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 trillion galaxies. So, I mean, the immensity of it, I can't even, you know, human mind can't even comprehend our star, one star. It's like one grain of sand if the whole world were an ocean of sand.
Yeah,
But
it's
I'm kind
it's a
of,
lot to think about when you get on that big of a scale.
oh, it's incredible. Yeah. And you know, you as a biologist, I don't want to overstay my welcome, so
No, yeah.
but you as a microbiologist, I think you'd really be fascinated by this. I'm not going to ask you, I don't care, you know, what your religious views are, but I was when I started this journey, I was pretty agnostic. I mean, I really didn't. I thought science and religion don't mix. I'm a scientist. I don't believe in any of this stuff. Um, and then as part of, you know, the more I learn, the more I think, you know, like I don't know if you're familiar with the what the heck is it called? It's called I can't believe I'm blanking, but it's the idea that the universe is finely tuned. Yeah, the fine-tuned universe. Thank you. Have you heard about that
I
hypothesis?
haven't, no.
So the idea is scientists found out that for all this to work, for like the chemical reactions in our bodies to be, you know, because you have to have ionic and what's the other one? Covalent. You have to have different bonding, and they're exactly at the right strength to make things strong enough for the organic compounds with carbon based to bind, right? But it's all of it, like the weight of a proton, the force of gravity, all of it is so fine tuned that if any of it was like a percentage a little bit different, life couldn't exist. Okay, and so what they're finding is the odds of life of all of these things being exactly what they need to be are like winning a lottery ticket 2 billion times in a row. It just
Wow.
can't happen. And so I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of cool. So I didn't really believe in a God, but so I thought, but how do scientists respond to that? So I researched it. And what they say is, oh, well, there's an infinite number of universes. So we're just the lucky one that got it right. I mean, you know, okay, well, that's kind of, I mean, I can't even comprehend a single star, let alone our universe. Now you're telling me there's an infinite number of universes that, I mean, it seems like if you think God is unlikely, a creator is unlikely, that seems just as unlikely. I'm not saying I believe in one or the other. I'm just
Right.
saying, hey, that they both seem ridiculous to me. So that means they're both equally probable. And so I started like down that road. And then I read a book called Signature, and this is what I'm leading to, called Signature in the Cell by Stephen Meyer. And as a microbiologist, I really recommend reading. It's fascinating. Um, it really changed my life. I mean, I still don't believe in organized religion, but, and I'll give you like the 2 minute thing, and I'm gonna let you go down with your life. But, this fascinates me so much. Um, you know, I know we all know about protein synthesis. You're a microbiology gal. I'm, you know, molecular biology, whatever, same thing. But we all study protein synthesis, right? And we all understand, you know, how evolution is supposed to work, the primordial soup, you know, how do we get the first cell, primordial soup, and the electricity, and then boom, you got a few amino acids, and they somehow like some kind of RNA that would, you know, whatever. There's all these theories, but this Stephen Meyer, Signature in the Cell, and he talks about the impossibility of a cell, and it is mind blowing. I mean, the more we learn about it, and I'm kind of embarrassed that when I studied this stuff, I didn't really think that much further. I just accepted but when he talks about it, and he says, look, in order to copy DNA, you need like 100 proteins. And in order to read DNA, you need like, I don't remember the numbers, but 100 proteins, right? Okay, now each of these proteins, the average length is like 200 amino acids or 300 amino acids, okay? So now what are the chances that just one of these 300 amino acid proteins or enzymes, same thing, right? Made of amino acids. What are the chances that they arose randomly? All right, well, there's 20 amino acids. So if you have a dipeptide, that's a 1 in 400 chance of getting that exact dipeptide. So it's like 2 to the 300th power to get one random 300 amino acid protein. And you need 100 of them to read DNA. So wait a minute. Okay, to read these instructions, you need 100 things that these instructions have already called for, that have already produced. I mean, it's impossible. I'm not saying it well, but basically it's impossible. But and science's answer is, well, over billions of years, basically anything is possible. But Stephen Meyer makes a really good point, and I've used this analogy myself. Like, imagine people don't like the idea of religion. I get it. I was one of them. But imagine you discover a 50,000-year-old cave. Okay, and in the cave there's all these drawings of animals. There's chalk drawings of all animals that stick figures of humans and stuff like that. Okay, and you're saying, I wonder what happened here. Okay, let me make a hypothesis. Okay, two things could have happened. One, wind from the valley blowing for hundreds of millions of years, just one day randomly over hundreds of millions of years, picked up a bunch of chalk randomly, entered the cave and splattered the chalk against the wall. And randomly, the chalk formed these exact figures of animals. Okay, that's one possibility. The other possibility is somebody drew the damn thing. Okay,
that sounds possible.
Yeah. So, and you know what? When he went through the math, I mean, the math of getting protein synthesis to work randomly makes infinity look small.
I was going to say that's a long time to be cooking soup, right? If you're cooking the primordial soup, and it's a very long time.
Yeah, wind blowing through a junkyard making a Ferrari. It just isn't going to happen. I don't care how many billions of years you have. And so he proved that beyond the shadow of a doubt. And it's really interesting because he's right. I mean, obviously, now he says, look, I don't know if it was a god who made those. We think it was primitive man who drew those cave drawings. But it might have been an AI. It could have been, some other entity. Could have been a super smart octopus that we didn't realize was smart. I mean, it could have been. I'm not saying that there's a god. I'm just saying there was some intelligence involved in producing these chalk drawings. It has to be. And, you can also play the game, which I played myself. Like, well, then who created the creator? At some point there has to be something that nobody created. I mean, it's super mind-blowing stuff. But the bottom line is, this is some fascinating stuff. So anyway, I'm pointing, after you finish reading all of my novels.
Okay, and then I'll read Stephen Meyer's novel.
Signature, it's not a novel, it's nonfiction, but it's Signature in the Cell, which was basically saying the signature of the creator is found in the cell.
Interesting.
And I've since read a lot of other stuff about evolution, which blew my mind too, because, like, there's a lot of, think eyeball. There's a lot of things that take like 500 steps to get to where they are, gradual steps. You don't just have one mutation, like, oh, you have a, wrong amino acid here, you get a point mutation and suddenly you go from being blind to having beautifully seeing eye. I mean, there's so many mechanics of the rods and the cones and the neurons going through. And the whole time there is no survival value. In fact, a lot of these things, these adaptations that when they're all together are super helpful, along the way, they're not at all. In fact, sometimes they're detrimental. So they would actually not be selected for, they'd actually be selected against. So how do you compile all of these systems? Anyway, I'm babbling, but again,
I love it. Yeah, that's why this podcast is called Finding the Magic, because people like you have these not magical ideas, but a new way of putting them together, right? A new way of putting thought together and critical thinking and imagination and all of those things that go into make, beautiful art, beautiful books, and fun to read. So
it's been quite the journey. Like I say, I started as like a staunch agnostic, would almost be pushing it. I was more on the atheist side than the agnostic side. I still, intellectually, I absolutely believe, after studying a number of these books lately of intelligent design, now do I believe in God per se? Do I believe in organized religion? Not necessarily, but boy, this is some compelling stuff. And scientists are stubborn. They continue to pretend that it doesn't exist. But I mean, this guy is really smart, and he's like, I think he went to Cambridge, and you'd understand the reason I think you, especially because of microbiology, you understand protein synthesis like really well. So you get how this all has to work, and the ribozymes, and all these processes that have to coordinate, and then he goes through like the arguments that science says, well, here's how we overcome it, and he debunks them all, which it's so easy to do. I mean, even if he was wrong in the math by a trillion fold, it would still be an infinite impossibility. I mean, just one in 300 base pair amino acid pair peptide protein randomly it's impossible. Anyway, that's my that's my soapbox. It's been I've been super lucky that I got to learn all this and kind of go on this journey, and oh my God, now I've studied about out of body experience, or not about out of body, near death experiences. And there's a lot going on with that too. There's a lot. I used to think like all these things were conspiracy theories and craziness, and you know what? Not so much. Anything is possible.
I
And the
believe
last thing
it.
I'll say, the last thing I say, which I've said in a million podcasts, so apologies that I'm repeating myself. And I put this in a number of my books too, because this is the most fascinating thing of all. And I'm going to end here, I swear to God. But
I could talk to you all day, but yeah.
but I studied developmental biology in grad school, and that's how does a single fertilized egg become anything, a frog or a human being? Okay, and that just blew my mind. I mean, and when I was like writing science fiction, and the example I use is like in the Prometheus Project series for kids, I wanted the city to be built by a nanite, a nanorobot. So these people were so advanced they could just throw one tiny microscopic robot in the ground, and it would gather up dirt and other material. It would make another one, and then exponentially it would grow to trillions of these little robots, and then it would construct a whole city, right? So boom, like that, and like a city or a plasma television grows out of the ground, and then an hour later, it just layer by layer, like what do they call it? The 3D printing, yeah. And you have your TV, and I thought, boy, that's going too far. We'll never get technology that advanced, right? But then I thought about the miracle of birth, and they call it the miracle of birth for a reason. And I studied developmental biology, and a single fertilized cell becomes 2 and becomes 4 and becomes 8. It grows, and then at some point, somehow, all the cells, like this group of cells says, oh, I'll become an eye. And this group of cells, I'll be a heart. And then eventually you end up with trillions of cells organized. You have 100 billion neurons organized for sentient thought. Okay? All of them arose from a single cell inside a womb. I mean, it's not like it's got a factory floor. It's all self-replicating, just taking stuff it gets from the placenta, through the placenta, and builds a human being. I mean, so having a nanite robot thrown in the ground and getting a plasma television, yeah, that's pretty impossible. But getting a living, thinking human being out of a single fertilized egg stuck in a womb is just, if that's possible, then nothing is impossible. And to really study that and to think that just randomly happens, I don't care how many trillions of years, I'm just not buying it anymore. And I was the staunchest. I would have called somebody like me a total fool 10 years ago. I mean, it's embarrassing to admit it, but I was like that small-minded that I would have just disregarded and said, oh, this guy's an idiot. And that's what people are probably doing right now as they're watching me. But but I really dug into this stuff, and the science is so compelling for this argument versus the counter argument. It really is much more compelling.
That is super interesting. Yeah, I'm buying all the books and the signature cell. So I am on that train now.
All right, awesome. Well, you have to write to me and let me know. I mean, and by the way, I'm not going to be like waiting by my email. If you read the first page and decide you hate my writing, don't feel any obligation. It happens.
No,
So
I like sci-fi, so I will definitely look you up and buy your books. But to make sure the whole audience knows where we can find you, tell us about your website and any other best places to go to find you.
yeah, it's douglaserichards.com. That's yeah, douglaserichards.com. And I think it's Douglas E. Richards author at Facebook page. And then my email is douglaserichards1, the number one at gmail.com. And I have my email pasted everywhere. I always respond to anybody who writes to me. I always write back. That's kind of my thing. And I just feel so lucky to have any fans at all. It sounds like I was an overnight success, but I wrote for years and years and years and got nowhere. And then I got an overnight success, and but I know how lucky I really was, because there's so many brilliant books out there that don't. It's just like you have to be lucky, and that's proven all over. Like I tell people when they tell me, oh, I've written this novel. I said it could be the most brilliant novel ever written. It's the right place, the right time, the right luck. There's so many novels out there. It's so hard to break in, and I don't want to be like pessimistic, but it's just the truth. I mean, if you look at like Stephen King wrote under a pseudonym, and those books didn't succeed. What's her name, who wrote Harry Potter? She wrote a thriller or a mystery novel, and it was like publicized and promoted, but not in her name, and it was a big failure. And then a publicist had to come out and like leak the fact that it was really J.K. Rowling, and then it became a bestseller. But there's so many examples, like Dan Brown. His first three books were a complete failure, and people in the industry that I know were saying, "Why are they even buying this fourth The Da Vinci Code?" And then all four became bestsellers at the same time. So it has nothing to do with quality. So it's another long-winded way of saying I'm super lucky. So when everybody writes to me, I'm just overjoyed that anybody's reading my novel. So I always write back. So it's douglaserichards1 at gmail.com. And you can find it on every single one of my author book pages or my bio page on Amazon. And Amazon has them all in 5 or 6 languages. Not all of them, but a lot of books in 5 or 6 languages. So if you aren't a native English speaker, knock yourself out. So that's basically it.
Well,
And
thank
if you
you,
want to
thank
see me at
you.
bookstores, go to yes, buy Split Second, by the way, because that would help me out, because it's like the big new thing.
Right. So Split Second comes out in April, and I had it somewhere, April the 14th. So just a month away from when this podcast will release. So thank you for being here and taking your time, spending your time with us, because I am so enlightened from this conversation and I could talk to you forever. So we will definitely have you back on with your next book. And I hope that, we can stay in touch, and I will let you know how I love all the books.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the heck out of this. I mean, more so than just about any other podcast. I had no idea you had a microbiology master's. I should have done my homework more, but
I don't think it says that on my bio.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember it, but that is so cool. No, it's really been super fun, Tricia. Thank you so much, and really, really had fun. So you have a great
Thank
rest of
you.
the week, and let me know what you think of the books if you ever read one.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.